Charts are used to display data graphically. We'll use a number of examples to explore charts in Excel. For our first several examples, I have some data on a team's daily coffee consumption. We will start with a bar chart showing our team members' daily coffee consumption. Second, we will make a pie chart to show the fraction of the total coffee consumed by each member. And third, we will make a line graph showing the cumulative total throughout the week. To create a chart, first select the data that you want to include in the chart. For our first chart, I'm going to include the days of the week, our team members' names, and the amount of coffee that each of them drank on any given day. Next, go to Insert. To allow Excel to make an educated guess based on your data of what kind of chart you want, you can click on the Recommended Chart button. And based on our data, Excel correctly guessed that we wanted to insert a bar chart. We can click OK. And now we have a chart that we can easily see how much coffee each team member drank each day. So the bars for each team member are represented by a different color. We can stretch and compress. If we want to set the title to the contents of a cell, click on the title, then type equals, click on the cell and hit enter. You could also enter any valid formula. When your chart is selected, click on this little plus sign to add or remove features from your chart. So for example, if we want to show the numbers on top of each of our bars, we can come up and enable data labels. We can use the other buttons to stylize our charts. Or apply a different color palette. Those options can also be found under the Chart Tools, Design, with the styles right here, and colors over here. We can cut a chart and paste it to a different sheet by selecting the chart, pressing Ctrl X, going to the sheet where we want to paste it, and pressing Ctrl V. In the far right column, I have the total coffee drank by each team member during the week. To make a pie chart showing what fraction of each of our team members drank during the week. And then we want to select their names and the totals drank. So first select the names, hold Ctrl down to highlight multiple ranges, and select the totals. Go under Insert. Under Charts, we can go straight to the pie chart and pick a simple pie chart. Again, we can add or remove chart elements, so we can add data labels. To further format our data labels, double click on one of them. We can show the value, the percentage, or both. Let's give Jenkins a few more cups to make it so that the percentage is different from the actual values. We can directly enter our chart title. And we can click, we can move things around. Now to make a cumulative graph, let's add another line under the totals. First value will be the same as our Monday value. Every day after that will be the sum of the previous day's cumulative total and today's total. And check to make sure that the total here and the total here both are the same. So to create this chart, let's select the cumulative total and the days of the week. Insert. Let's make a simple line chart. We'll add the data labels. We may want to overlap the daily totals with our cumulative totals. So So to add another series, which will show our daily totals, first we're going to have to move our chart out of our way. So right click, go select data, add the series name, we'll just use total. No, let's call that daily. And use the total row. I need to get rid of and now we can move that back up. The daily totals might be better represented by a bar chart. Click on the daily total series, right click, change series chart type, and change the daily total from line to a bar. We can use two different scales for our series. To scale the two series separately, double click on one of the daily totals, bring up this menu here, change plot from primary axis to secondary axis. To rectify the interference between labels, we can move the labels for the bars down to the bottom of the bars. Click on one of the daily total labels, go to label options, and go inside base. And it puts them all down here. If we want to change the color with them still selected, go to the Home tab and select a different color. If you don't like the position of some labels, you can manually move them. So click on one and drag it to where you want it. We can label the axis so you immediately know which series scale is which. But again, going to the Add Chart Add Elements, add axis titles. We don't need the title for the bottom axis, so we can delete that. Select the ones we want to keep. And manually set those. We can stretch our graph out until our day labels go back to the orientation that we want. Our next example is a line graph showing the population growth of several towns. So we have a list of towns and a list of years, and the populations for each of these towns in each given year. So let's select all of our data. Let's select the years, the towns, and all of the population numbers. Go to Insert, pick a line chart, set the title to the title above our table. And that's really all we need to do with this chart. So now we can see Town A has kind of a sporadic change in population, whereas Town B seems very linear and steady. Town E is decreasing in population, and Town D is increasing quite quickly in population. And C is fairly steady and then has a bit of a boom between 2018 and 2020. The last example is an XY graph of the time it takes to cook a turkey versus its mass. From the XY graph, we can see a trend in how long it takes to cook the turkeys. So the two values that we're interested in is the mass of the turkey in kilograms and the time it takes to cook that turkey in minutes. So let's select our mass and time. Go Insert, pick an XY scatter. Along the left is the time it took to cook, and along the bottom is the mass. So let's add axis titles. Make this one equal to time, and this one is equal to the mass, and the title will be equal to this cell here. So we can see that there's a trend that as the turkey gets bigger, the longer it takes to cook. And we can add a line that represents that relationship by going to the chart elements and adding trend line. If we want to see the equation of the trend line, you can click on the trend line. Click on the trend line. And go down and display equation on chart. Let's make this smaller and zoom in on it so that our numbers look a little bit bigger. Let's have a quick look at how to insert a chart from Excel into Word. Let's use our population as an example. To put it into Word, it's as easy as selecting the chart, pressing Ctrl+C, opening up a Word document, pressing Ctrl+V, and then down under the paste options, choosing whether we want the chart to remain linked to this, and choose whether we want the chart to remain linked to Excel. We have 4 options, 2 of which will use the theme from the Excel sheet, and 2 of which will use the theme from Word. Oops. For each of those options, we can choose to embed workbook, which means it will no longer be linked to the original file, or we can tell it to remain linked to the original file. So I'm going to choose to use the destination theme and to link data. And if we go back to Excel and change any data there, our chart will be updated. So for example, remember where this town C ends up at 800. If we go back to this Excel sheet, change town C, its final number to 600. And we come back and it's reflected in our chart in Word. We can still add chart elements here. One useful element sometimes, once you've embedded in Word, might be to have a data table. Now we've got our chart plus the entire chart of data. Now that we have this legend here, we can get rid of that legend down here by going chart element and deselecting legend. And this operation is the same for all types of charts.